The seventh gate is the army. And the seventh gate sits in the G center, so it is part of the identity in our design, and the seventh gate is part of our direction in this life. It's one of the expressions of our potential direction in life. Remember that when we're dealing with the G center, we're dealing with two basic themes, a theme of love and a theme of direction. The seventh gate is part of the right angle configuration of the Sphinx, which is about direction. More than that, the seventh gate is really important for us in understanding thematically lines in other gates through genetic continuity. That is, the seventh gate is a role gate. And as a role gate, it sets archetypal themes for each of the 6 variations of the lines. So that when you're looking at the seventh gate, you're looking at the gate of the role of the self in interaction. And it is this logical role, because this is part of a logical circuitry. So the army really represents the role that the collective can take on to lead, and to lead the collective in an organized fashion. So when you're looking at the seventh gate, you're really looking at these primary roles. Now remember, role gates are very important when you want to really understand line themes. So when you're looking at the seventh gate and you look at its 6 lines, you are really seeing the archetype of what are the 6 roles of collective leadership. There's the authoritarian, the first line, the democrat, the anarchist, the abdicator, the general, and the administrator. And so when you're looking at the seventh gate, you're really seeing this, the archetype, the real structure of what collective leadership can be all about. Now, obviously, it's very different for somebody who has the seventh gate defined, that is, has it defined in the sense that it's active, that it's in a defined G center, then the role is always consistently coming out. What is more difficult is for those, of course, who have this gate active in an open G center. You know, the strategy, the not-self strategy of the open G center is always to be looking for love and always to feel like they are lost in their direction, which means that they're not certain about the nature of the role. Even though the role itself has a genetic potential that's imprinted in them, the fact that the center is undefined means that it operates inconsistently. You know, if they're a second line and they are designed to be a Democrat and they have an open G center, well, they're only going to be democratic in certain situations. And it's only through the activation of the G center by somebody else that they're even going to have the opportunity to be able to express that role. And it goes back to understanding something fundamental about the nature of a gate. The fact that you have a gate active, that you have to see that there's many different parameters around that activity. You know, is it active and operating? Is it part of a defined center? Is it active, but it is in a dormant state because the center is open and it's waiting to express itself through conditioning? And even more than that, is the gate being activated by the conscious or the unconscious? You know, are you able to participate consciously in the process of that, or is this something that is coming out of your unconscious? Somebody who is an authoritarian, somebody who is a 7-1, their role, what they're here to express in this life is their authority. But that's very different coming from the personality, because you're aware of it. You recognize that you're acting like an authority, and thus you're prepared for the response of others who may resist your authority. But if that first line of the 7 is coming out of the unconscious, you don't know, you're not consciously participating in your authoritarianism. You may not be aware of the tone that you're using. And as a direct result, you can end up upsetting people not knowing why they're upset and getting into situations that are very difficult and losing your power to be able to lead them, the potential of being able to lead them. If you go to the harmonic gate, on the other side of the channel from the 7, you have the 31, you have the gate of influence, and together they form this channel of the alpha, for good or bad, the design of leadership. So the 7th gate is fundamental for us. After all, we are operating in what is inherently a logical environment, and that the future for us is governed by our capacity to understand the formulas and to be led along the line of correct formulas in order to be able to survive into the future. We need our correct leaders. We need those out of the seventh gate who are going to operate correctly as themselves and thus be able to provide for the collective. The 13th gate. The 13th gate is the fellowship of man, and it's one of the role gates in the G Center. And it is a role gate of the openness in our interaction with the other. If you look at the very first line of the 13th gate, and remember that when we're looking at any kind of hexagram and we want to be able to understand its basic nature, that the first thing to do is to look at the first line, because the first line represents its foundation, and the foundation of the 13th gate is empathy. And this gives you a clear idea of the role that this plays in the overall nature of the being. It's also something to understand about the genetic continuity that exists through role gates and how helpful they can be in understanding the nature of our personality and the way in which our purpose can be fulfilled through our profile.
Io sono di Berlino.
When you look at the position of the Sun Earth,
No, io sono di...
and you look at their lines, you're looking at 70% of the imprinting. So if you're looking at your own design and you happen to be a first-line personality, let's say that you're somebody that is a 1-3 profile, then one of the things that you understand about yourself